Black Widow. It's your boy Icon, and we're here to review the Black Widow. Obviously, I saw it later than everyone else did because I do not subscribe to Disney Plus, and even if I did, I was not going to pay all that money to watch Black Widow. So it took me a while to finally see it, but I did watch it. So let's get right into this. So right out of the gate, one of the things that I did like about it, I do like the tie-ins that it had to, certain events in movies, in previous films. I like the fact that it takes place right after, Captain America Civil War, where her and Tony had that conversation. And then, she told Tony, she was like, oh, watch your back. Tony was like, oh, they're coming for you. And then she was like, let them try. And then she dipped. So we find out what happened. And then, we don't see her after that. She leaves. And then we don't see her again until, till like Avengers Infinity War, where she shows up. She's blonde and she's with Captain America. But we find out what happens after she leaves the compound and after she leaves Tony. She was somewhere overseas. She was in a bathroom. They brought back General Ross, which I'm happy General Ross's character managed to survive too, because he was in the Edward Norton Hulk film. Like he was with Iron Man in the bar when Iron Man was like, we're putting a team together. So the fact that he was able to make a comeback, and actually continue to be in the universe was really cool too. So it's nice to see him. He's basically like going after Black Widow. He's trying to bring her in and the funny thing is, like, the reason why they're trying to bring her in is because she assaulted the King of Wakanda. And it's interesting that that's why the government's after her, but it's also kind of silly at the same time because the King of Wakanda himself doesn't even have beef with her anymore. So if the King of Wakanda doesn't even care, why does Ross care that much? So it's almost like Ross is just trying to, he's just trying to do just to be an a-hole about it. So, so he goes in, they try to bring her in. Obviously it doesn't work because she's the Black Widow, and then she gets away. They take us to, to her past. Now, here's the part where, here's the part that wasn't a surprise for me, because if you've been watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe from the beginning, because a lot of people jumped in like midway and they're like, oh, it's the greatest thing of all time. Yeah, we're even there from the jump. So anyway, but like if you've been watching it from the beginning, like Natasha Romanoff's character, she always talks about like her past. She always talks about the blood in her ledger. We saw the footage in Age of Ultron when she had the flashbacks. We know that she grew up in the cult, like the organization that took women in and trained them how to be assassins and plugged them in different parts of the world. We know all that because she talks about it all the time. She always talks about the blood in my ledger and I've been different people. So so the funny thing is, when you watch this film, it's kind of like there are certain aspects of this film where you're kind of sitting here thinking like, didn't I see this already? But it's like, it's not that you saw it already. You just remember like all this. It's like every single thing that she talked about for the last 20 films is now, being brought to life on television. So you're basically just remembering every single thing that she's ever told you. And that's not a bad thing. It's just like, it just kills some of the excitement because a lot of stuff that happened, like, we already know is going to happen. So it also starts when she was a child. It was her, she had a sister, she had a mom, she had a dad. And I thought that Romanoff was the young child. Apparently she wasn't, she was the older child. And the dad came home and then he told the wife, he was like, listen, the jig is up, we gotta get up out of here. So they take the kids and they try to get out, and they ended up having like some formula, some device or something, I forget what it was, but they were trying to get away with that, with this particular piece of paraphernalia, and they're rushing out of the house to try to get it, and they're being shot at. They get on an airplane, the dad jumps on top of the airplane, then like the family flies away, Natasha flies the plane, and they end up landing back on the base camp of where the female soldiers are at. And when they land there, the father in the group, he was just like, hey, I got the stuff we were looking for. And then the person in charge, he was just like, okay, he's like, well, take the girls away, because they weren't actually his daughters. They were all just like posing to be a family because they pretended to be a family so an objective can be obtained. Once the objective was obtained, then they took the girls away. They snatched up the girls. But the funny thing is, the youngest girl, because she was so young, to her, they were a family. Like that was her mom. That like her, like as far as she was concerned, her and Natasha were actually sisters. But they got ripped apart, and then they got put into the program. They got brainwashed. They got trained on how to be assassins, and then they never saw the two people who were supposed to be their parents again. But then like we know, Natasha, she got out of the organization and they brought up that too, because one of the other things she also brings up is Budapest. Budapest, between her and Hawkeye always gets brought up, and it got brought brought up again, but at least now we know more information about Budapest. Budapest was the mission, that Hawkeye and Black Widow were on, because after Hawkeye found her when she was still an enemy agent, and then, Hawkeye, like they said, Hawkeye made a different call. Instead of taking Romanoff out, he ended up recruiting her into S.H.I.E.L.D. After that whole thing happened, the two of them as agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now ended up clicking up to go kill the guy that started that female organization. And Romanoff thought that she killed the dude, but then later on she finds out that that wasn't the case. So it fast forwards to the future, and the young girl, like the young blonde girl, like the youngest daughter in the family, we see her and a bunch of other soldiers. They run up on this one Asian chick in the alley. They're trying to get something from her. When they fight when the blonde fights the Asian girl sprays her with something, and then like it snaps out of it, because remember, all these women were brainwashed. So now that smoke got sprayed into her face, she's no longer brainwashed, and now she has all of her memories and everything, and she has the secret formula that can wake up all the Black Widows that were brainwashed in the Black Widow program. So the sister, the blonde chick, she ends up going to find Natasha, because Natasha is like the only person that she knows, or she feels like she can trust. The two of them end up having like some banter back and forth, typical Marvel joking banter, and they decide that they're gonna go take down this organization once and for all. But in order for them to take down the organization, they need help. So the person who was quote unquote their dad, for all those years, he was in prison, and they end up breaking him out of prison to recruit him to help them take down the organization. I forgot what I knew his name. I forgot what his name was. It was like the red soldier, the red agent or something. I forgot what his name was. Basically, he was the Russian Captain America. They bust him out of prison. The three of them click up. They're just like, yo, we need your help to take down this, the organization, the Black Widow organization once and for all. They end up going to find the woman, who played their mom back in the day. The family gets together. They end up having a conversation, and then, like the mom, she's just like, oh, you guys were just agents. We weren't a real family. And then the daughter was like, oh, the family was real to me. She gets mad. She walks away. But then we find out that the Black Widow organization found out where the four of them were. They came up to try to bring them in, because they did this whole thing where Romanoff and the mom pretended to have the mom, betray them just so they can get themselves onto the compound. So the four of them are on the compound now. The mom is trying to wake up all the Black Widows. The sister, she goes in, she's fighting the Black Widows. The dad's fighting everybody. Romanoff goes in and she finds the head person. Now, the villain throughout this entire thing was Taskmaster. And there's really not much I can say about that. Like, my whole thing is this. I don't have a problem with the character or the person that they chose to be like the silent villain who went out through the course of the entire film trying to stop Natasha and them from doing what they got to do. The problem that I have with this is, from my knowledge of the Taskmaster character, he was basically somebody who was so intelligent he can copy the moves and the fighting style of any other person or any other character. Like if he watched you fight, he can mimic your moves, and then he can do your stuff better than you. They basically reduced the Taskmaster character to a mute child, who worked for the guy who was the head of the organization. And I don't have a problem with them doing that, because the story was, when Romanoff thought she killed the head of the organization back in the day, she used that guy's daughter to get to him. And she said that she, unfortunately, in order to kill that dude, she had to blow up his house with the daughter in it. It didn't work. The guy escaped. His daughter ended up surviving the blast, but like her face was scarred and she couldn't really talk or whatever. So then like the head of the organization, he had to brainwash his own daughter, and he turned his daughter into basically like a military shell that he can use to do his bidding, and he called her Taskmaster. Like, I don't have a problem with any of that. I don't have a problem with the storyline. I don't have a problem with what they did with the character. My whole thing was, you didn't have to call her Taskmaster. She could have just been some random agent that just happened to work for this dude. It's like, you didn't specifically have to use the Taskmaster character, because that's a waste of a character. But anyway, so like I said, so they're at the base. Romanoff comes face to face with the guy, that started the whole Black Widow organization. He implanted something in her brain to where she couldn't attack him because he brainwashed all of them. They had their verbal joust back and forth. Romanoff ends up getting the better of them. She ends up, she ends up freeing all the other Black Widows, because the whole organization was full of Black Widows. She ended up freeing all of them. Her and her sister together freed them. They used the antidote to wake them up, from their brainwashing. So all the Black Widows now, they're free. They're free of his mind control. He tries to run. They go chase him on top of a helicarrier. The helicarrier explodes. It's a cool fight scene where they're fighting on debris, like in the sky. I thought that was very cool. But in the end, they ended up killing the dude. Like, the sister ended up killing the dude. And after the sister killed the dude, she blew up his plane. You know, like she landed safely, everybody landed safely. So then here comes, and then at the end, after they kill the guy and they finally take down the Black Widow organization once and for all, here comes good old General Ross, you know, trying to bring her to justice again. But the family, you know, but she told the family, she was like, yo, y'all go ahead and dip, and I got this. So we never actually saw the confrontation between her and Ross, because when she was standing there, like she allowed her family to escape, and after she allowed her family to escape, she just stood there and she waited for General Ross to show up, and we don't know the interaction. All we know was in the very next scene, she was completely free. She was by herself and she was walking around as though like nothing ever happened. So I guess she got away, you know, and then she was talking to some guy that was helping her out throughout the course of the movie, getting supplies and things of that nature. And then, you know, he asked her, he was like, what are you going to do? And then she said that, you know, she didn't think she had family at all, but come to find out she has two families. And she said, while my Russian family is trying to recuperate and rebuild their lives, I need to go help my Avengers family because they really need me right now. And she basically used the Quinjet to go link up with Captain America because she found out that Captain America had broke, you know, like Falcon and everybody out of that prison that was sunk in the water. You know, and then that was pretty much it. And then in the end, like in the post-credit scene, it takes us to the future after Endgame, you know, after Endgame, where Romanoff was dead. It shows her grave, and then, you know, her sister is at her grave, crying at her grave. And then the female character that popped up in Captain America and Winter Soldier, she was talking to the sister, and then she was just like, oh, you know, I bet you want to get revenge for the person who murdered your sister. And then she was just like, if you want your revenge, here's how you get your revenge. And then she hands her a folder, and it has a picture of Hawkeye in it. And she said that Hawkeye was the person responsible for Romanoff's death. And that's messed up because she chose to see the thing. See, I feel like this woman has a personal vendetta against Hawkeye, because if she has enough knowledge to tell the sister that Hawkeye is responsible for her sister's death, she should also know that Romanoff chose that death and it wasn't actually Hawkeye's fault. So that whole thing is a little weird to me, you know, but I am interested to see how that plays out when his series, you know, does come out, you know, and that was it. So overall, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. I mean, I did enjoy the movie. It was a good action film. It was a very good action film, but it was a basic action film. Like, there was nothing epic about it. Like, I didn't watch this movie and like my mind wasn't blown. And even as far as the thing, like the connections to other things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was cool to see certain things, like certain connections, like where she was during this and where she was during that. But there was nothing really that significant that was like, oh my God, you know, like there was nothing, like it was just like a basic action film, and there was really nothing mind blowing about it. But like I said, but I did enjoy it, so I can't, like I said, I can't hate. Like, the movie didn't suck. It just wasn't. Like, the whole thing of like people were just like, oh, the wait is finally over. It was worth the wait. I mean, like, to say, can I say it was worth the wait? Like, I can't say it was worth the wait. You know, it's not like I wasn't sitting on the edge of my seat, biting my nails, waiting for this film to come out, you know, but like I said, but you know, it came out, I watched it eventually, and I enjoyed it. So that was it. And thank you for tuning in. Got some other things coming up in the pipeline. I'm actually going to do a review for Space Jam. I'm going to watch Space Jam pretty soon. I'm going to review that as well. I'm gonna end up doing a series where like I basically do like recommendations for like TV shows or things that people should watch. So definitely check that out. And then, you know, DC wise, you know, we got Stargirl coming. Supergirl's supposed to be coming back. We got Titans coming soon. And I believe we got Young Justice coming as well. So that's going to be in the pipeline. So check that out as well. So thank you for tuning in, guys. Leave your comments down below. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Let me know what you thought of Black Widow. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you in between? Are you just like, it was cool or whatever? You know, so just share your thoughts on what I'm talking about. So thanks for tuning in as always. Until next time, for the Black Widow, for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm out this bitch.